And now our last speaker is Kem Saichaie, and Kem is the Associate Director of our Center for Educational Effectiveness. And we always like to round this out with some thoughts about teaching and what we do when we go back in the classroom, thoughts that are research supported. So thank you, Kem. Do you want to have this? It's kind of nice.
Sure.
You can move.
Yeah, I can move a little bit. At this time in the afternoon, that's really good for everybody. Again, welcome to this event. It's great to hear all these stories. What I'm going to do is largely echo most of the comments that were here and maybe try to address some of the concerns about some of these ideas. A lot of the resources that we have for you this afternoon are in the folder that was circulated here on the right-hand side. There's maybe a 10-page document that contains a lot of these ideas that are backed up by various types of educational research that supports the continuum of things that relate to first-generation instruction, so in higher ed, I should say specifically. But the idea here that's been echoed is that we have pioneers in the classroom. You are a living example of that, and what that model looks like might be the only model that people see. So I hope that you continue to wear that with a badge of honor and continue to accentuate how those things are very important. So we have a mental model of what a first-generation faculty member looks like and what that person does as a part of their daily operation. We all have different ways of going about our scholarship, our interactions, and those are things to keep in mind because you're constantly modeling behavior. Humans are highly observant. We pay attention to quite a bit. And so folks are gonna pay attention to how you carry yourself, how you address others in the classroom, how you deal with those difficult conversations at times, but also how you promote how learning can be truly something that can be a passion. The idea about recognizing real life situations, I think Marcella said it best, is that folks sometimes have family obligations and that higher education isn't a normalized practice. Going back to a local community after you've been away at the university or at college is going to be different, and there are going to be questions about that. So equipping them with the ability to talk about, as a scientist, as a first-generation scientist, how do you communicate this back to your family, to your community? Those are really tangible things that you can share with your students as a way to make it more relevant for them, but also for them to make it more relevant to their community and their peers. And then this idea of interaction with the instructional team. So the reason why we say that is because graduate students are a big part of the instructional team here, especially for those of you who are teaching the large classes. They're a big part of who the students, undergraduates interact with on a daily basis. Do they have similar stories and aspirations as you? I'm guessing most of them probably do. And sharing the purpose and use of office hours, and maybe even distributing some of it if there's an opportunity for that. Just letting them know, perhaps you meet with your graduate students and say, hey, if you're a first generation student, here's how we can address that. Just have a sort of small template, share your story, share how that is relevant to who you are becoming and shaping your identity as a scholar and as somebody who's contributing to the UC Davis teaching and learning community. So thinking about that, and then the idea of the purpose of office hours, it's really wonderful to hear that everybody is using those as an opportunity to interact with students, student-faculty interaction, high-impact practice, something that we all know and value, but for those of you who have a lot of folks come into these office hours, maybe think about giving some structure to that time so students can come in with a focus rather than, I just really did bad on this test. That's probably a way that a lot of people come to office hours, but that's also a very intimidating situation. So what specific questions do you have about an exam, a reading, something along those lines to structure it? Or is this more about future opportunities or more broadly about writing in general? So there's ways to structure those office hours that can be both related to scholarship, the class itself, and perhaps to even knowing what's next. So what can you do with a degree in this field to address the idea that they don't even know what they're doing here? Talk about the transferability of skills. The idea of writing intensive classes, being able to be a good writer will transfer a lot of different places. So this is an idea that you can incorporate into the promoting academic success. I'm not going to go through a lot of these because they're part of your handout here, but transparent teaching is a piece of this. We've touched on high expectations, and you can have high expectations because it will mean something different coming from you than looking at a grading scale and saying, well, how am I going to possibly accomplish this? Being on their side and saying, we're going to do this together, this is a grading scale, these are the expectations for this class, but here's how we're going to get there. It gives them a map, it gives them a sense to say, okay, as an instructor, you're here to help me learn this material. I wouldn't be in this class if I knew everything. And sharing the idea of how you came to the subject matter can be very important to letting people see that you're here to be on their team to promote this idea. Pulling back the curtain, that is simply saying things like, here's a grading policy for this class. If you have a rubric to evaluate a creative project, public speaking, anything along those lines, what standards or what criteria are you going to evaluate the work on? And then this idea of employing adult learning theory, it's just making it relevant. Why are we solving all these problem sets? What do these equations actually mean? Connect them to relevant ideas and things that are going on in current conversations in your field can really make it very useful. If you haven't heard of this, this is just one thing I wanted to share real fast. It's called the Tolerance from Teaching Checklist. And if you just go to tolerance.org, there are ways to make your curriculum a little bit more inclusive. And that's very hard to see. But the reason why that's very hard to see is because I want to promote people taking a look at that site. So for example, oftentimes we cite historical literature, folks that have made discoveries that allow us to know things that were previously unknown. But what sort of social context, political context, and other sort of things were going on at that time? When a paper was written in the 1960s in sociology, different things were going on. Similarly to when discoveries were made around the turn of the century in physics, for example. We know a lot of things based on the good work of those scholarships, but providing some extra context will help people see an evolution of the scholarship that's happening and give you a little bit more opportunity to engage folks that might not be familiar with that other than, oh, that was a long time ago. Keep in mind, 2000 was a long time ago for a lot of people in this room, but even longer for some of the students who were born that year. Something to keep in mind. I finally want to emphasize the just-in-time resources. That is that 10-page packet. And I don't think I've seen a more comprehensive set of resources related to teaching for first-generation students in existence. So we're here to share that with you. If there are other ideas that we're missing, we really welcome your feedback, but we want to be able to provide opportunities for people to take a look at this information. And that will take me to my next point here, if I don't unplug the projector and standing on the cord. The just-in-time resources are organized along these lines. And I previewed some of those in my comments just a moment ago. But we have some new things coming along. So I'm going to announce right now that we have a first-generation faculty learning community. Some of you in this room have participated in our other learning communities before, but we're going to launch a program that allows first-generation faculty members to talk about their experience as educators and also as first-generation faculty members. What does it mean to navigate this realm? What does it mean to be an educator teaching 43% first-generation students? So my hope is to co-facilitate that with Carolyn Thomas, who's here, and then invite some folks that are also first-generation faculty members to participate in that. And details will be coming along those lines very soon. We have other grant programs. If you're doing hybrid and online teaching, we really want to make a focus in the idea of equity and diversity in the classroom, giving you tools and strategies, because online and hybrid settings can be a place where inequitable practices sort of are amplified, and there are many things that we can do to make that a helpful place for you to learn. And I'll finally close with this because I want to be mindful of time. There's a blue journal that some of you picked up, and this is part of an early preview to a campaign, but we want to promote this idea of reflective teaching. And if you didn't pick up one of these, please grab one on your way out. If you'd like another one, let me know. But the process of reflecting on your teaching is really important to becoming a more informed educator, but also one that's focused on improvement. I think everybody in this room wants to be a fantastic teacher, and I know some of you personally are fantastic teachers, but just like the writing process is iterative, so is the process of teaching. And reflecting on what you're doing is an important part of learning and an important part of thinking about how to make improvements, and also sharing your stories. So this is a no strings attached agreement to just say, reflect on your teaching. This hopefully nice size form factor will allow you to put this in your backpack, notebook, or other notebook, and carry it around with you and collect your thoughts about teaching before, after, during. And I've got a few prompts. I had a few prompts up on the screen, but focus on things.
We will get the PowerPoint up for everybody.
We're going to get the PowerPoint up for everybody. So I will hand it back over to Carolyn so we remain on time. But anyway, if you have questions as how this relates to your teaching, or if I can answer any other thoughts, let me know.
We can circulate. Oh, yeah, let's give Kem a clap. And we can circulate that material. I know that people have to go. I want to give one final word of huge thanks to Sharon Knox. If there were no Sharon, I don't think there would be a first-generation faculty initiative. She and her team, a lot of students have been tireless in putting stories up. I know some of you who are staff partners and faculty partners, you've shared your stories. I want to make sure everybody knows you can share these stories with students. You can take a minute in class and just take them to this page and they can watch videos from our faculty. We had some on when you came in. They can read stories of other students. They can read stories of our staff on campus and their experiences. All the exposure doesn't have to come from you. You don't have to take that on yourself. We create a portal out to the broader world of first-gen stories, and all of these people are identified by name, and all of them are happy to be contacted too by students, or they wouldn't be sharing their stories. Sharing does need more stories, and there's an easy way for you to share your story right there. And there's even prompts. So if you go in to share your story, you can just answer the questions and it'll be turned into a story. We have students who follow this material now, and it's great if every few weeks a new story can come out. It's really inspiring for them. So thank you to everyone who's here. You have so many places to be, and thank you for all you do for our students. Don't forget to take your coffee mug, get a reflection journal, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.